In this video, I teach a live masterclass to a group of 6 and 7-figure entrepreneurs and walk them through the 4-step process that I use to build a $500K per year personal brand and that I use to sign $10,000 and even $20,000 clients directly from my content. I break down how to build an offer stack that turns every follower into a potential buyer, how to build a monetization ecosystem that turns people from followers to paying clients in days, how to create a consistent brand identity that stops the scroll and positions you as an authority in your space, and how to build an AI content team that saves you hours a week and tens of thousands of dollars. All right, let's get into the video.
Super pumped about this. Thanks for being here, guys, especially on a Saturday. I think this presentation is going to be super valuable for anyone who creates content, wants to make money from content, whether that's brand deals, whether that's coaching. It should really cover a range of whatever you're up to. Just kind of to preface this, my whole thing is personal branding. I help entrepreneurs, I help founders build and monetize their personal brand. And so I've been doing that for the last year. I myself run a $40K per month coaching consulting business doing exactly this. And I consult with a couple different groups as well, which I'll talk about. But the whole goal of this presentation is basically how to build a $500K per year personal brand. Cool. So why should you listen to me? I don't like to brag, but I'm gonna brag a little bit. So I have 85,000 followers. As I kind of said earlier, run a $500K per year business, coaching, consulting, run fully from my personal brand. I also consult for the School of Hard Knocks, which is one of the fastest growing business media companies in the world. And so they have 20 million followers. They have their own clients. And so I help them consult and help their business owner clients grow with content as well. I've worked with more than 100 6, 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs. And so over the next hour or so, my goal is to share some of the learnings and wisdom and things that I'm doing in my own business with you. And hopefully, you can use it to make more money, to grow your following, and to build your brands. So just looking at some of the results I've generated with my own personal brand. 2 days ago, someone paid me $18,000 USD after a day of following me and watching my content for my offer. I've had clients pay me 5 figures for my coaching consulting, which is a 3-month one-on-one program. So I know how to actually monetize with content and with a personal brand. A lot of people tell you how to monetize, but they don't actually have the results for themselves. I feel confident that, based on what I've been able to do with my brand and actually getting someone to pay me $18,000, $12,000, $10,000, my way of building a brand works. And so there are really 4 stages that I'm going to walk you through in this presentation. So I want to just kind of preface this by saying, I'm not special. So I've been posting for 6 years. I hadn't made any money until the last 8 months. Just 12 months ago, I graduated from university with kind of no idea what I wanted to do. I was building a videography business. I was barely making any money from that, chasing clients. I was kind of a creative director for another company, but I hated having a boss, which I'm sure many of you can relate to. Being told what to do and basically not having control over my time, my location, and my income. So I quit that job 12 months ago, and I've spent the last year building up this business and basically teaching people how to build a personal brand. And so to me, we need to start at kind of what is a personal brand? It's not posting content, it's not going viral, it's not even really making money. It comes down to kind of these 3 things. So it's a traffic source to help the right people discover you and your business. It's a trust driver. So once those people land on your page and see your content, it builds trust with them. And then it's a conversion mechanism, right? To get someone who's never seen your content before to like you enough, to trust you enough, to actually pay you thousands of dollars. And the goal is kind of compressing that cycle and making it as short as possible for someone to land on your page and want to work with you. Content isn't marketing. It's really the most powerful distribution engine ever built. You can, for free, film a video and post it and get millions of impressions, hundreds, thousands of leads. And so that's really why this is so important, is understanding how to do this correctly, how to post, and how to build a brand. So the best offer, the best business, the best product doesn't win. The most visible one does, right? You could be the best in the world at your thing. You could have the best supplement company in the world. You could be the best fitness trainer in the world. But if no one knows you exist, or if the right people don't know you exist, it doesn't matter. And so this is why being visible online is so important. And you can't just focus on your skill and getting the best product, the best service. You need to also focus on the marketing and the content and becoming visible to the right type of people. So the 4 pillars and the system that I run, I built my brand on and run my own clients through are the offer engineering, the monetization ecosystem, the visual authority, and then the Copilot OS. And so I'm gonna kind of walk you through each of these stages, and if you can do all 4, that's really what builds a powerful and profitable personal brand. So we're gonna start with offer engineering, and the whole goal here is that we build a brand and offers that anyone who follows you can pay you. And so I'll kind of explain how that works. I like to think of a personal brand in this diagram. It's really like a timeline. You're right in the middle. You're right here. You're a little bit on the right. This is the present moment. On the left is the anti-vision, or the past version of you. And on the right, moving this way, is the vision. This is the goals, the mission you're working towards, the business you're building. The whole idea with building a personal brand that you can actually make money from is that you are ahead of your ideal client. You know something that they don't. You have something that they want. And we're basically trying to create a gap between where they see themselves and where they see you. And so that's what I call the authority gap. It's the distance between where your target client feels like they are versus where they feel you are. And so the rest of the presentation is going to be about how do we actually widen that authority gap so we can charge higher prices, have better margins, and everything like that. I also kind of want to point out the 3 keys to a personal brand are these at the bottom. You need to be relatable, right? Other people need to see themselves in you. They need to see their story. They need to know that you're from a similar place as them. You need to have the authority, which we talked about, which is what you need to be able to charge prices for your offer, for your product. And then you also need to be inspirational. You need to be going somewhere, right? No one's going to follow you if you're not worth following, if you're not leading them somewhere. And so in all your content, in all your marketing, you need to make sure that you are coming off as relatable, as having authority, and also as inspiring the people who you want to be following you. And so this is kind of the next part of building out an offer, whether that's a product, a service, a coaching, consulting, whatever it is. The whole idea is that we want to make as much money as possible with a high ticket offer. We want to be able to charge $6,000, $10,000, $18,000 and do as little work as possible. But in order to get there, in order to build the trust necessary for someone to pay you that much money, you need to start down here. You need to start with free resources, whether that's YouTube videos, free guides, PDFs, free samples. Doesn't really matter. You need an offer that's free. And that's what's called a lead magnet, and I'm going to talk about that more later. But the whole idea is that people start at the free tier. Once they try one of your free resources or products and actually get value from it, then there's a little bit of trust built, right? And then they're going to move up to, we can call this like the entry product. So this could be between $50 and $500. This could be a low ticket product, a course, something that's a little bit more money, but still obviously not, $10,000. And so the whole idea is that by giving people lower and less expensive offers to start, that's what's going to get them to build up enough trust to then pay you for the high ticket. And the great part is, not everyone is going to start here and take forever to like ascend. Like some people, like the guy who paid me $18,000, he runs $1.5 million a month business. And he didn't need to like pay for this other stuff. He wanted the best, he wanted the most access to me, so he did it. But for other people who maybe can't afford the highest ticket product, we still want a way for them to be able to work with you and to be able to make money from them. And so that's really what the mid-tier, the entry types of offers, types of products are. So this is the concept that I created.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's valuable. You should pay attention. So the audience activation score. All right. So this is basically what it means is how effective are you at monetizing your audience? And so it's basically a very simple formula. It's basically how much money do you make per month from your audience divided by your audience size, right? So if I make 40K per month from my personal brand and I have an audience of 80,000 followers, that's a number of 0.5. And ideally, we want that number as high as possible, right? Ideally, every single follower who is coming in is paying us. And so this is an interesting kind of diagnostic tool for you yourself to think, okay, how much money am I making from my coaching business, from my online business, whatever it is? What's my following, and then what is that ratio? And then, this kind of tells you if it's less than 10 cents, you're doing a really bad job right now. If it's 1 or more, you're doing a really good job. Almost no one is at that level. Me, I'm like right on kind of like the 0.5, the strong level. But the whole point is that if you have a low score and a big audience, it means that you have a trust problem. It means that you have the audience, but they don't trust you enough to pay you, or you don't have the right offer that they actually want to pay you for. And so in order to kind of fix that problem, then you post proof and conversion content. Case studies, testimonials, reviews, proof content, right? It's self-explanatory. If you have a low score and a small audience, it means that you have a reach problem. You're not reaching enough people. And so what do you do to fix that? Well, you post more top of funnel content. You post broader content that's going to appeal to and be seen by more people so you can grow your audience. So this is a really interesting kind of test I like to put my clients through, for them to kind of visually see how effective they are when we start working together at monetizing their audience versus at the end of the period, what is their score, and the goal is that it's higher. So next I want to talk about the monetization ecosystem. And I touched on it a little bit earlier, but no one's going to pay you a lot of money, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars after watching one reel. It's just not going to happen. They're going to buy, as I say down here, from seeing the right content on the right platforms over time. And so there's this concept of the 7-11-4 rule. Some of you have probably seen it. Basically, Google did a study and research, and they found out that in order for someone to buy from you online, they need to consume 7 hours of your content over 4 platforms across 11 touch points. And so this basically proves that trust is built across platforms, across time, and not just from a single post, right? Which we all know, but the question is, okay, how can we help our ideal client hit those 7 hours across 11 touch points across 4 platforms as quickly as possible so that they buy as quickly as possible? And so that's really what the content loop is for. Every channel has one job. So if you're posting right now just on Instagram and trying to grow your business, you're not doing a great job. You're leaving a lot of money on the table. If you're posting just YouTube videos, you're obviously leaving money on the table. You need this ecosystem of content across platforms, whether that's Instagram Reels, Stories, DMs, lead magnets, which we talked about earlier, YouTube video, and even email. Almost no one does email newsletters, but for me and for some of the people I know, they make a lot of money per month from email newsletters. The whole idea is that you get people into your ecosystem with Reels, and then you keep them in your ecosystem by showing them daily stories, by giving them call to actions to DM you a keyword. Then they DM you that word. Then you send them a lead magnet. Now they're on your YouTube channel. Now they're in your YouTube ecosystem. And the whole idea is from this loop, we help them reach those 7 hours of watch time across 4 platforms as quickly as possible, which means it's going to be faster for them to buy. That's really the entire concept. Next, I want to talk about brand outliers, which is a concept that I've created and I've tested on my own account and has been one of the main reasons that I've been able to blow up, both in like following as well as revenue generated. So on the left, there's external brand outliers. And so what brand outliers are, they're basically the unique and impressive things about you that you can leverage, that you can talk about, that you can share in your content to get people who've never seen you before, who have no idea who you are, to stop scrolling, pay attention, and watch your content, and ultimately follow and get into your ecosystem that we talked about earlier. So there's 2 types. There's external and internal brand outliers. External brand outliers attract attention, and they're things that you can kind of see. They're, for instance, age, income, the job that you have, the car that you drive. These things that you can kind of visually see or aren't hard to, they're kind of objective facts. Whereas internal brand outliers are stuff you can't necessarily see. They're your stories, your beliefs, your values, the things that you've done, the things that you believe. And these brand outliers, the internal ones, are really what builds connection. So I like to think about it like the external attracts initial attention, but then the internal is what makes someone go from, oh, like Jack posts some pretty good content, is valuable, to, oh, I really actually like Jack as a person because he shared his story of quitting his job and I relate to that. Or he shared his, some other story about breaking up with his girlfriend and traveling to Bali for a month. It's like stuff like that where it's not necessarily external, but it is still very important. And so I'll give you an example of how I've leveraged these in my own content. I went from 40,000 followers to 70,000 followers in 1 month from using the hook, I'm 22 with 70,000 followers and my content looks better than 99% of creators on Instagram. So that one sentence combined 3 external brand outliers. And every time I said that hook, the videos just blew up because it creates a lot of curiosity. It immediately positioned me as an authority as well. And it frames the rest of the video as very important, as opposed to me saying, here's how you grow on Instagram. It's like, okay, why would I listen to you? It's just building immediate trust by leveraging these external brand outliers. And then once people are on my page and seeing my content, then they see my stories, they see more of like who I am as a person. And that's what builds that relatability, that trust with me. So I would highly recommend coming up with your own list of both external and internal brand outliers and trying to talk about them more in your content, especially in the hook, the first 3 to 5 seconds. It should do a lot of good work for your brand. Next, I want to talk about how to basically find winning ideas. So a question I get all the time is like, oh, what do I post? What do I talk about? Like, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to post. Well, there's a lot of difficult and complicated ways to like figure out what you want to post, but I like to simplify things as much as possible. You should be posting ideas, ideally, that have already proven to perform, in the sense that the idea is already validated from doing well on Instagram or whatever social media platform you're posting. And at the same time, you actually want to talk about. So it's like personal resonance. So the best ideas to post, the outlier ideas, are ideas that score high on both performance, proven performance, objective metrics, and also personal resonance, which means you actually like and want to talk about it. It's okay to mix in what I call like authentic opportunities or trend traps from time to time, but the best content long-term is going to be these outlier ideas. So every time you think, hey, should I post this video? Is this a good content idea? I like to use this scoring system. And if it scores high on both, it's an outlier idea, then I post it. That's the stuff that I prioritize and post. Next, I want to talk about formats. So a format is basically how you package an idea. We talked about how to find the good ideas. How do we package it? I'll give you some examples. Talking head videos, vlogs, green screens, viral reaction videos, street interviews, day in the life videos. Those are all examples of formats. But then the question is, okay, like if there's a bunch of different formats and ways to package my ideas, how do I figure out which formats to choose? And so I use this formula, which is basically how to find your winning format. The best format is authenticity times leverage divided by effort. So ideally, you find a format that feels authentic to you, that gives you leverage in the sense that you're taking advantage of the skills you already have, but also doesn't require much effort. So I guess I can find an example. So let's just say I'm trying to figure out a format. I'm scared of talking to people. I'm an introvert. I wouldn't do a street interview because that is low authenticity, right? I would probably do maybe a talking head video where I'm in my office and I'm looking directly into the camera. That would have higher authenticity. Leverage, if I live in a mansion and I have a really nice car behind me, I'm not going to go out and film in front of Scotiabank, right? Like that would be a really low leverage format for me when I have a better option. And so it's like, okay, what are those things that I have, those skills that I have, even like places that I can film that I can take advantage of. And then effort, obviously, how much work each post takes. So for instance, a week in the life vlog is going to take a lot of effort. You probably need a videographer. It'll be over an entire week, right? You'll need to spend time editing it, whereas maybe just a talking head video takes 25% as much time. So the whole idea is we want to maximize authenticity and leverage and minimize effort in the formats that we're actually choosing. Next, I want to talk about visual authority. This is really important. I know some people disagree. They say, oh, just post, iPhone videos, low effort. My belief is that if you have a premium offer, if you want to be perceived as a premium brand, then your content needs to reflect that. Because people decide if you're worth listening to before you say a word. For right or wrong, optics matter. And so my whole goal with my brand is making my content look and perform as well as possible. Hi. So this is really about how to actually create strong looking visuals. And I call this the cinematic stack. So there's like 6 main components that go into your personal brand to make it premium visually. I'm not going to get into like the exact gear and like exact shot lists and all these different things, but the main things that you need to be focusing on are camera and gear, lighting, shot lists, your color grade, your editing, and your symbols or your associations. I want to talk about the last one a little bit because I think it's probably the most misunderstood. What I mean by like symbols and associations, for example, in all my videos, I wear a black shirt. And I'm wearing a black shirt right now, and it says, "You're too creative to work a 9 to 5. Like, I'm doing that strategically because I want to be perceived in a certain way. And another example of a symbol is when I'm meeting with high-level creators, business owners, I'm posting that on my story, I'm tagging them. I'm making people aware that I'm around other high-level business owners because psychologically, my audience thinks, oh, Jack's at that same level. And so there's all these different ways to have associations, even like your colors. So if you want to be perceived as trustworthy, right, you would wear blue. If you want to be perceived as energetic, you would wear red. My own brand, these are my brand colors, white, black, orange. And I'm not just randomly, like this presentation doesn't look this way randomly. Like all my content looks cohesive across my stories, across my YouTube, across my presentations, across my carousels. Everything looks uniform, and that communicates a level of professionalism that wouldn't be there if I just didn't care as much about the associations and the symbols. Next, I want to talk about how to actually create content consistently. And so I use this idea called the 4-hour content week. The biggest concern I get when I talk to clients is, oh, I don't have enough time, or, I can't fit in creating content into my week because I'm running a business, I have a job, I'm training for a marathon, I'm doing all these different things, and I just don't have time. And so the goal that I have for myself, that I'm basically at, is spending only 4 hours a week on content. And most people might think, oh, like how are you able to do that? And so it's with this system. On Monday, I spend 60 minutes ideating, coming up with winning content ideas. And we talked a little bit about how to do that earlier. On Tuesday, I spend 60 minutes scripting. So I take the ideas that I came up with on Monday, and I either script them or at least add bullet points about what I want to talk about, because not every video has to be scripted. I make sure I know what I want to talk about on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I spend an hour to an hour and a half filming. So I batch film everything. I make my setup look good once. I set up the lighting, I set up the plant, I set up everything. I make sure I'm wearing the right outfit. I make sure my hair looks good. And I film all of the content then. And then Thursday is basically just uploading for my editors. Obviously, if you edit your own content, it's going to be a little bit different. You're going to have to spend more time. I did edit all of my content for the first 5 years of creating. I don't anymore, thankfully. But the important part is that you pick a day, and on that day you do one content task. And you block it out in your calendar, especially if you have a busy schedule. I have like 20 calls a week, and so if I don't book it in to create content, then the time's going to disappear. Someone's going to book in. I'm going to get distracted. It's not going to happen. So you need to make sure that you time block over these 4 days, ideally in the morning, because if you do it in the morning and you aren't able to finish all the work for whatever reason, you have the rest of the day to kind of fit in time to actually do that. So if you're creating content randomly, which some of you definitely are, the way to produce more consistent content and more effective content is to use a framework like this. All right, we're on pillar 4. So this is where it's pretty fun. So AI is obviously a buzzword. It's trending. A lot of people are using it in different ways. I've been using it the last 4 months, and it's completely changed my business. It saved me at least 10, 15, even 20 hours a week. It's made me more money, and it's saved me a lot of money as well. And I want to kind of explain how I'm actually using AI in my business and how you can too. So it's like, why is AI important? Well, it's important because it's hard to stay consistent and we're busy. We have other things, we have businesses to run, we have families, we have the gym, we have all these different responsibilities. So it's like, how can we get as consistent as possible with our content? And so again, it's not to like overload you with math, but here's another kind of formula. So consistency equals personality times format divided by friction. So in order to stay consistent, you actually want to create the type of content that you're posting, personality. You want to integrate your personality into it. You want to choose the right format, which we just talked about. There's another formula for that. And we want to reduce as much friction as possible from coming up with an idea to posting it. We need to reduce how difficult that is. And the way that I do that is using AI. And I'll show you how I do that right now. So I built this thing called my AI brain. It's basically like me, but smarter and like AI. It knows everything about me. It knows my voice, my clients, my offer. It has all my like systems, my SOPs, my way of creating content, my scripting frameworks. It has all that. And then from that brain, I've created these 5 main skills, and I'm continuing to create more. And I'm gonna kind of walk you through each of these skills, what they do, why they're important, how they're saving me time. But my main takeaway is if you guys aren't using Claude Code to create content, to create systems, to build skills like this, then you are wasting so many hours a week because it's an incredible skill. So just looking at the AI brain, this is everything that I've inputted into it. My story, my voice, my ideal client, my offer, my brand, right? My colors, my fonts, case studies, my SOPs, my way of doing things. You can obviously add more, you can add less, but the whole point is that you need to give it as much context as possible so that it can replicate at least as well your own results, but ideally better. And so how do we actually turn this list of things into skills that can actually make us more money? So the idea hacker is the first skill that I use. It's basically a content strategist. It's basically a smarter version of me creating content. And so what I do every week is I give it one big idea. I say, I've got an idea this week. This skill will then take that big idea and it will turn it into an email, newsletter, a YouTube video script, a story, a carousel, a reel script. And so it takes one idea, and like we talked about earlier with the content ecosystem, it turns it into one post on each of those platforms. Think about how much time that saves me. It probably saves me 2 hours a post. So this is the first idea. And it basically replaces an entire content team, a content strategist. The second one is called the Daily Content Intel. And so I'm usually gatekeeping this, but I decided to share it today because I want to give you guys as much value as possible. But it's basically, as I'm sleeping, it does research, and then it sends me a brief in the morning about my niche, competitors that I told it to watch, current events in my industry, like personal branding, content marketing. And every morning, like when I open my computer, it's basically sent me this research that it's been doing all night on topics to create content about, on basically events that are happening in my space, on things that I need to know about that I wouldn't have necessarily known if I hadn't had this skill. So instead of like looking on LinkedIn or like scrolling for hours, it gives me the most important things I need to know about. It gives me the posts that my competitors are posting so I can take a look at what they are and see if I can take inspiration from it. And it does it all automatically. And so, again, saves me a ton of time as well. The next one is the sales call analyzer. You don't need to be taking sales calls for this to be useful. I take a lot of sales calls. I also do a lot of client fulfillment calls. So really whatever calls you're on. What the sales call does is basically does market research based on your conversations with your clients. So when I'm on a call with a client, with a prospect, with a lead, whoever, after I'm done the call, the sales call analyzer analyzes all that data and pulls content ideas for me based on the conversations that I had in the calls to post. And the reason why this is so important is because the best content ideas aren't going to come from random people on the internet. They're going to come from your clients and your potential clients, the objections that they bring up, the limiting beliefs that they have. Like they'll tell you what they want content about. You just need to have this skill to be able to recognize that So for instance, if I have someone on a call says, what's a good example? Like, oh, I think I can do it by myself. I think I can create content, I can grow my brand by myself, or I can get fit by myself. Then I can create a content or a story sequence that says, hey Jawad, how's it going? Then I can create a story sequence about how important it is to invest in a coach and basically shift that belief from people thinking, oh, I can do it myself, to, oh, I need to work with a coach because it's going to save me a bunch of time, it's going to save me money, experimenting, all these different things. I actually had a client tell me on a sales call, he saw a story that I posted the previous day about the importance of working with a coach. And he was like, that's one of the reasons I booked in the call, because it made me realize that I couldn't necessarily do it by myself, or I didn't want to spend the time that it would have taken to do it by myself. And so like that's a real life example where this skill gave me this content idea from a conversation I had, and then it turned into a client. So that's the sales call researcher. This one's really cool. It's the carousel builder. So I'm sure you guys all know what carousels are, but basically I don't want to sit down and record myself every single day for content. So that's why sometimes I get lazy and I post carousels. And so that's why I built this carousel builder. It's basically like the best graphic designer that you know, and it's free. So I used to pay graphic designers $50 a post, and now I can create 100 carousels in like 10 minutes. And so basically what I do is I give the carousel builder a topic, or I give it a piece of content I've already created, and I basically say make a carousel. It then creates a full carousel in my branding, in my fonts, in my colors, with the animations that are custom to me that I can post. And so it saves me hours of time. I don't need to go into Canva. I don't need to try to like experiment and do all this stuff. I don't need to pay a designer. And I've used carousels that I've created with the carousel builder over the last month to generate like 1,000 leads onto my email list, just from having the carousel and then having a call to action for them to comment a keyword. The last skill that I want to talk about is the lead magnet machine. So basically, we were talking about earlier the offer ascension, right? Where you have a free offer, then you have a slightly more expensive, and then up into your highest ticket offer. Creating these free offers, creating these lead magnets, whether that's a PDF, a YouTube video, whatever it is, it can take a lot of time, especially if you're busy running a business. So what I do is I've created this skill where I can just upload a YouTube video, a newsletter, a post, and say, create a lead magnet that I can give out to my audience. And so they actually created this presentation based off another presentation that I gave it that I did. But it can be a PDF, whatever. Basically, it saves me tons of time, and now I can test out different lead magnets. I might have 5 lead magnets over the course of a week instead of 1, because I can now produce them 5 times faster. I can figure out the messaging angles, the positioning that my audience wants based on offering the lead magnet and seeing how much response there is. And so I can get a lot more data a lot quicker and use that data to help grow my business. And so one of the things I do is I say, turn my latest YouTube video into a lead magnet that grows my email list. And it does that exact thing. That's the last skill. So I think this is it, guys. So you have the skills, you have the system, you have the 4 pillars. You're going to get access to this presentation at the end. I can share it in the community as well. If you want my help to actually help you build out the systems, feel free to DM me the word system on Instagram, or you can come up and chat. I'm happy to share more information about your current situation, see if I can give some free value as well. Sorry for the guys who came in a little bit late. There's going to be a recording of this on YouTube that I definitely recommend watching. But that's the end. Thanks, guys.